And here, let's do another matrix sample here. We're given this matrix for the pre-image, that's triangle ABC in blue. Here, 1, 2. And over here we have B with the coordinates 4, 2. And C, 3, -2 in the fourth quadrant. Now, your book didn't give you a graph, and you didn't have to graph it. But this is just to help us visualize. We know the coordinate rules, but we're not going to use them. We're going to use matrix multiplication. Our translation matrix is going to look like this. I'm going to have my -1 and 1 in this diagonal, and the other diagonal is going to have the zeros. And by now, you're getting good at this. Remember, row times column. -1 times 1 plus 0 times 2, and that is, of course, going to be -1. And let's just go right down the list here. We'll take row 1, column 2, and that goes in position. Row 1, column 2, -4 plus 0 is -4. And finally, again, -1 times 3 plus 0 times -2. And as you can see, that would clearly be -3. Now, repeating for the next row, second row, and let's go for the first column. 0 times 1, 1 times 2. That's going to give me a 2. Next, we're going to go row and column, and that's going to be in the position row 2, column 2, and that looks like another 2. And finally, our last product, or sum of products, I'm going to have 0 times 3 plus 1 times -2, and in the second row, third column, I have this. So let's plot all those points, and our image would end up here. And we can see right there, that's a reflection about the y-axis. Well, this time we're going to reflect in the x-axis. That's this one, horizontal. And, again, we know this rule. That's if we use coordinate rules, but we're not using that. No, we're going to use matrices again. So I've got my polygon matrix for the pre-image. That's all you were given. And we plotted it just so we could have a visualization here. So I've got second quadrant, first quadrant, and I've got the fourth quadrant and one on the y-axis. Well, let's see if we can liven this up, and let's paint our matrix. And now on this diagonal, I've got the 1 and the -1. And again, on the other diagonal will be the zeros. That's going to give me that reflection in the horizontal or the x-axis. And by now, we're getting used to this. This is row times column. Now let's speed this up. That's going to be, of course, that looks like 2, or I'm sorry, -2. First row, second column, and that's again going to be 4 plus 0, which is 4. See, I can't hit it. Where did I put that thing? Right there, 4. Next one, I've got 1 times 3 plus 0 times -2, and again, you can see that that's going to be 3. And I know you're fast forwarding over this if this is getting tedious for you. Well, that's an easy one. I've got 1 times 0 and 0 times -1. So that's clearly going to stay 0. And of course, you'll look, the first row is exactly the same in the image as the pre-image. That's what you'd expect. Now, the second row times the column is, of course, going to reverse every value in this bottom row. 0 times -2, -1 times 1, that's going to be my -1. And again, row times column, 0 times 4, -1 times +1, again with a -1. And let's see what we got here. 0 times 3, -1 times -2, I'm going to have to say that's going to be a +2. And let's go with one more. Well, that looks like it's going to be, of course, it looks like 1. Where is that thing? Oh, way down there. 1. There you go. So there's our matrix, and you can see now we've got our image matrix, and if we were to plot that, I imagine it would look like this. The figure is going to overlap. So I've got overlapping figures here of this quadrilateral. And if I just imagine, that's what it's doing. It's reflecting over that x-axis.